Chilling tales for dark nights.
Knuckle's Supper. Written by Drew Stepek. Performed here by Jason Hill. Chapter 19. Watchers. It was a rough heal. I lay on my cot for endless hours, trying to gather enough energy to reach the floor and grab the syringe. Not long after my attack, real Tim and not Tim came into my cell, hooked me up to an IV like Herman's, and whispered threats into my ear. Making things worse, vomit from my heroin withdrawal burped up out of my mouth and landed in the gaping caverns cut into my chest from the acid. Every time I stretched my arm out to grab the syringe, I felt my insides waddle around, almost spilling over my skin. The withdrawal fevers didn't help my situation and were a constant reminder that I needed the heroin to survive. "How does it feel, Reynolds?" Herman badgered every time he saw the needle eluding my reach. I shook frantically. I grabbed onto the sides of the cot to steady the bowl containing my ingredients so none of them escaped. I was positive that everything would rejuvenate over time, but since I had never been in a situation like this, I felt it best to keep everything as stable as possible and intact while my shell pressed forward to mend itself. I never felt withdrawal symptoms before. If I needed the fix, I went and took it. I stole drugs from dealers and I took their lives to satisfy my needs. Even when I rummaged around in the gutter, I always somehow managed to score. I don't know exactly when my hunger began, but once I was aware of my needs, I smelled the heroin and sought it out. I was now in my most desperate moment, and my existence seemed frail and useless compared to the power of the drugs, the torture from the acid, and the constant exposure to the sun lamps. Herman laughed away. "How does it feel, Reynolds?" In between his bouts with consciousness, he flung insults at me simply because he knew I could hear them but was unable to respond. To him, even as fragmented as he was, this was his way of reminding me that all problems were my fault. Every couple of hours that passed, I'd run a finger up and down and across the wound, checking for progress. The hours became days. Fat Mac didn't pay us another visit. Our only visitors continued to be real Tim and not Tim. They came into our cells, made jabs at us, and switched out our IV and colostomy bags. They didn't bother dressing any of our wounds. About 2 days after Fat Mac left, the Tims upped the sedatives on my blood bag. Either they were concerned about my slow heal, or they just wanted me nice and loopy so they could hatch a more nefarious strike against me. The drip from the IV was slow, but it was comforting as it bombed into my bloodstream, only to be instantaneously devoured by the first lucky part of my body that needed it most. It was a seemingly never-ending game to them. They laughed and drank wine while they flicked the sun lamps on and off. There wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. I vaguely remembered a game that the Tims played called Fireball, where they would turn on the lights and see which one of us stayed responsive the longest. Whomever picked the loser had to drink. They stopped playing the game after only a few matches because whichever one of them picked Herman always won. I felt like I was hovering above my bed like some out-of-body experience. I was floating over the shit pile that was my life. Feeling the light bouncing off me, I would scratch at my butt, making sure that Bates' ID was still there. It was my single motivation to escape. Before I met her, I never felt things like guilt or pain. I didn't know whether or not there was some sort of blessing or curse. Thinking about her made me feel nothing but guilt. On the third day after my punishment at the hands of Fat Mac, my gash had healed just enough for me to get at the methadone syringe. Without sitting up on my bed, I carefully ripped off a shred of denim from the side of my jeans and tied off my arm. "Is it worth it, lowlife?" Herman yelled over to me. I tested the durability of my chest cavity and its contents. My arms trembled as I bent it to an upright position. Terrified, I started to prop myself up, attempting to keep my sternum as flat as possible. I used my free arm as a safety net just in case important organs manifested themselves into a wave and overflowed. Remaining vigilant but anxious, I let the brace of my arm down. The cross on my chest fizzled and oozed. Although raw, it was secure enough. As I arched myself slightly further upward, I relaxed my shoulders. If I even yawned, I would have sprung open like a jack-in-the-box. Herman carried on. "Hey, hillbilly, they did you a favor. They torched that stupid-ass Batman ink. You should thank them." I sunk the needle into my arm. The blood in the syringe was room temperature and the taste was putrid. Nothing like the fresh blood hijacked from a beating heart. I felt sour in my body, like I was just giving my dead veins a transfusion with urine. My eyes rolled toward Herman's cell. I wish it was worth it. This isn't even heroin. It's fucking methadone. Ask for heroin. The voice wasn't going away. "I'm hearing a voice," I confessed. "Yeah, I'm hearing your voice right now, and it's pissing me off. Not like that, dude. I'm hearing a voice that keeps telling me to find heroin." What the hell does it sound like?" "I don't know, like a weird, scratchy whisper." "Oh, you dumbass Reynolds." He laughed. "That's just the Gooch." "What? What's that?" "It's the bully you never see, telling your dumbass what to do. I think it's withdrawal." "Oh, sure, it's that too. On that TV show, Different Strokes, Arnold was always pushed around by some big-ass bully that we never ever saw. That was the Gooch. Arnold was always bitching and moaning about the Gooch. He was always the scapegoat, the reason for all his problems." "That's really fucking stupid, Herman. You sure about that?" "What's it telling you right now? Is it telling you to get some heroin, even though we're all fucked up in that cell?" I didn't respond. "Sucks for you. Pot ain't addictive. Ain't no Gooch running my life." I curled my dry tongue inside my mouth as I tried to enjoy my fix. "Cut the shit, Herman. I ain't cutting any shit, fool. We're both here because of you. If you would have listened to me even once, we wouldn't be here. You bring me one washed-up actress bitch that burns my house down, then you bring me another little bitch who steals my drugs and my money. Then, the first bitch comes back and kills everyone I know. They didn't play any part in it. It was just me and Des. Bullshit, Reynolds. We had people following her back and forth from your drop. And you think that I'm stupid. I knew she was involved the night you came over and sat there, looking me straight in the face, telling me that the cops didn't have any drugs. I said no coke. Dumbass. We made sure it was heroin because we knew you just couldn't pass up an opportunity to rip me off. Look around you. Can't you see they're beating us down for their enjoyment, fool? This isn't a mystery, Sherlock. We are two in a long-ass line of vampires who go missing every year, from the day we were born. All we've been is a big experiment." Herman raised his head and propped his chin on the table. He spat a loogie into my cell. "Fuck you too, Herman. You set us up for what reason? Because you hate us? Why didn't you just kill us? We played right into your test. Are you proud that you proved a junkie would take a duffel bag full of heroin? The list just keeps getting longer every time you call me that name. I've kicked your ass more than once, and when the time comes, I'm going to finish the job. I can't wait. He scratched his chin on the table. Since we're talking about your bitches, that Pyro, the Habit, she's the one who dragged your Raggedy Andy ass in here. She also came into my cell and shoved a hunting knife into my armpit. I can't even tell you how much I wish I could go back to that night you brought her over. I would have shoved both of you into my meat grinder, ate you, shit you out, and then fed you to the rest of your wankster-ass friends. I hope she was one awesome lay, Reynolds. You D-list starfucker. I reached sideways and dug into my bucket for a piece of life. I never banged her. Herman's eyes lit up. Oh, well, let me get this straight. You brought some psycho-ass bitch up into my shit, let her burn my house down, and then I end up here with you, and you don't even have a decent anal story for me? You never even dipped it? Stupid Reynolds. You never pay attention to what's going on right under your own nose because all you can think about is drugs. Oh, it's funny, because Copperhead told me that every one of them tapped that ass on that little bait girl. Piss off, Herman. Oh, you're kidding me. This is a comedy club in here. I'm serious, fool. You were the joke of the town. Des came over to our place and showed us videos of him and his partners banging on that little girl in every single position you could imagine. All she did was sit there and frown. She had dead-ass eyes because she was all faded from the junk. Copperhead was in the videos, too. This is priceless. I rubbed the scar tissue on my torso. What do you mean? Des was showing you videos. Oh man, Reynolds, how do you think we were sure you took the drugs from the cops? Damn, that little bitch confessed the day after Halloween. Fuck! I screamed, folding both my arms over my chest to hold myself together. With my foot that was dangling off the bed, I kicked my bucket to the bars at the front of my cell. The lights blazed on. Gun-shy to fully stand up, I tipped onto my cot on my back. Being mindful of my body, I rolled toward the back wall. Using my ass, my thighs, and what power I had in my arms, I propped myself up the mattress. "Enjoy the sun, asshole!" I screamed as the light singed the tip of my tongue. "There's nothing you can do now, King fucking Cobra." He didn't scream like before, meaning either he was developing a tolerance to the sun lamp or he didn't want me to hear how weak he'd become. After a while, the lamp's power down and a smoky mess from Herman's cell wafted toward me. "Remember, Reynolds," he snorted. "I'm keeping a list over here. I'm just the messenger. You and I both know they ain't gonna let either of us die in here. Like I said, they need us for something. If and when I get the chance to square up with you, it'll be much worse than anything that happened to that little girl. And when I finally get my hands on that bitch that burned my house, fucking forget it." I snuck out from behind my mattress. His seriousness made me realize that our survival was going to be decided not by us or our willingness to work together or apart. Our fate was in the hands of the cloth. The neckband tugged at my skin as it caught one of the exposed springs from the bed. After the smoke cleared, I looked into Herman's cell. He winked. It only made sense. If Cobra and I were ever going to see the light of day, scratch that, the outside world, at night, again, we would have to come together against a far more dangerous gang than the Snakes and the Knucklers combined. His voice grew louder and more powerful. "It happened, Reynolds. We all hit that little girl. What do I have to gain by making that shit up? We had a hell of a time laughing at you back at that compound." I scratched at where the faction tattoo had been. The only thing left was pus. We should talk about building up our own cartel, he babbled on. You know, so when we get out of here we can make our own dollars. You and me. He nodded his head, coaxing me to agree. I'm in. If we get out of here, we work together. He winked at me again. How bad do you want Des? I thought for a second. There isn't even a scale that can weigh that question. Then I turned the question to him. How bad do you want Copperhead? Oh, you don't even know. Using a combination of budget sign language and camouflaged gang slangs that we both knew, Herman and I formed an alliance. We veiled it in discussions about the big plans we had after we got out of jail. Hey, Reynolds. Yeah. That was a pretty dope move with the mattress. I didn't even see you break it off the frame. Flattered, I smiled. It was pretty nice, wasn't it? I realized I was scratching away at the bindings the entire time I was healing without really paying attention. Right before I kicked the bucket, I noticed that both sides of the mattress were free. I pressed my mouth up to one of the bricks behind my bed that I knew hid one of the many pinhole cameras used to observe us and yelled, Okay, you dumb Catholic cunts. We want to know what you want. Good evening. This is Jason Hill, host of the Horror Hill podcast. You've been listening to a chapter from the award-winning novel Knuckle Supper by best-selling author Drew Stepek. Knuckle Supper, Ultimate Gutter Fix Edition, and its critically acclaimed sequel, Knuckleballed, are available now from Bloodbound Books. Check out the links in the video description and sticky comments below to pick up a copy today and show your support for indie horror. Also, please consider making a donation to Children of the Night today and help end teen prostitution and human trafficking. Children of the Night is a privately funded non-profit organization established in 1979 with the specific purpose of providing intervention in the lives of children who are sexually exploited and vulnerable to, or involved in, prostitution and pornography. Visit childrenofthenight.org for more information today. From author Drew Stepek and all of us here at Chilling Tales for Dark Nights, thanks for listening and for your support.
Chilling Tales for